Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to M42's main stage here at the inaugural Abu Dhabi Global Healthcare Week. My name's Amandeep, and I'm thrilled to be your host for these 3 days here at ADNEC, in the heart of Abu Dhabi, in the capital of the UAE, and as we broadcast live around the world. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces, some new people joining us, and we're here on a journey together. And this journey, really, it cannot go without credit to the incredible team effort of M42 and our valued members and audience. So the first round of applause of these action-packed 3 days goes to you all. Please give yourselves a big round of applause for joining us. We are building on the success that M42 had at Arab Health Week in Dubai because we're in our home city of Abu Dhabi. I'm proud to be a resident here for 11 years, and we've got such an exciting program. To take me through this very promising program, allow me to please introduce on stage one of the founding members of M42. He's been with the journey from 2023. James Sibley, the group's CFO. Please do join us. James, first of all, what a beautiful set and what a beautiful audience.
Can you hear me? Oh,
fantastic.
Thank you so much, Amandeep, and thank you to all for being here. There's many great exhibitions on this afternoon, and you chose to be here, so thank you. I think the only person who was forced to be here is my wife, so she's done very well, so thank you for coming to my wife.
She gets a round of applause, you all do. Now, for the 3 days, we've split the 3 days up into 3 key themes. I believe they are prevention essentials, AI 2.0 of health, and tomorrow's health today. They really speak to what M42 is focusing on.
They do. It's front and center of M42 and our journey. And I'm just trying to get some slides on the screen.
So for this particular event, M42 have the pleasure of partnering with the Longevity Forum. And we've got renowned world speakers coming to join us and gracing our stage, as well as our fantastic regional talent as well here in the country. So without further ado, James, there's someone that you know in particular. You've known him for 10 years. Tell us a little bit about him.
There's a fantastic gentleman to my right off the stage, Mr. Jim Mellon, who's a forward thinker, an incredibly generous guy with his global efforts in addressing longevity, activating and driving awareness through longevity. And today would not be as much a success that it will be without his attendance and without his support. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Jim Mellon.
Jim Mellon, chairman of Juvenescence. Please give him a big round of applause. Jim, you have a mic.
I do.
I'm going to be handing over to you, gentlemen, to take us through the Longevity Forum, as well as setting the stage for what we have in store for the 3 days. Over to you.
Perfect. Well, Jim, we're just trying to get the slides onto the screen, which will help with the agenda. Perfect. So before we go through the agenda for the week, let me just tell you 30 seconds about M42, who we are and what we do. M42 are a global health company. We are focused on using advanced technology to improve patient care. We have 2 guiding principles. We focus on people and not patients, and we focus on health, not healthcare. For those of you that are in the healthcare industry, you will understand why, but the key theme of prevention and detecting before we get to treating is obviously the mega trend that everyone is trying to get involved with globally. You will see during the course of the week, 3 days. Day 1 is focused on prevention. We have sessions today from global experts, global thought leaders, global researchers, and global scientists. Please do attend. The sessions are very insightful. They are 30 minutes each, and it's highly advanced curated content, so please do attend. Day 2, really focused on technology. We have some fantastic technology leaders, in particular from the US, from our partner Microsoft here as well, driving some forward thinking around the technology space. And day 3, where does the future take us? Those big picture ideas, those big, hairy, audacious goals, where will the future of health go? I'll just hand over to Jim now as well. And as I said, a big thank you to Jim. He's been a great supporter and friend to M42 throughout our journey. And I know a lot of the global thought leaders are here follow him. So thank you to Jim. And Jim will mention a bit about the Longevity Forum.
That was a really nice introduction, and thank you very much, James. Thank you, M42, for partnering with the Longevity Forum at this really special event. The Longevity Forum is a not-for-profit that was established by Andrew Scott, who will be speaking, I think, on tomorrow, and who features in the Financial Times today with his new book, written about by Martin Wolf, one of their best columnists. And I recommend you have a look at it. He's a sensational individual, and he's an economic specialist on longevity, which I'm going to be talking about very briefly, if I may, James. And then Dafina Grapci as well. We started it in 2018. It's a convening mechanism for anyone who's interested in longevity, the implications of longevity, the societal effects of longevity, and of course the stuff that goes to make us live both healthier and longer. And it takes place in London with about 20 partner events, as well as Oxford for one day in November of every year. And so I do hope some of you will be able to come and join us there. And we've had some wonderful recipients of the Person of the Year. Sarah Gilbert, who invented the vaccine, as you know. James Lovelock, who sadly has passed away, but was 103 when he passed away and invented Gaia. And many of you will have read Peter Attia's book, probably the greatest longevity guru at the moment. And he was the Person of the Year last year. If I could have the next slide, that would be great. Thanks. So I think this is back to you, James, on this.
I thought this slide was useful. If you look at the key content, there's one theme that threads all of these. So the first topic is bringing together. The second topic is partnership. The third topic is technology and transformation. And the third is the supportive nature. The fourth is supportive nature of the Abu Dhabi government, and in particular our regulator here in Abu Dhabi, the Department of Health. The common one thread between all of these courses is people. People and talent drive everything we do. That's a core focus for us at M42 because we genuinely believe with good people we can achieve great things.
So I'm going to tell you very briefly, and you'll hear a lot more about it in the next few days, about why we must take longevity more seriously. You see the brown box on here. It shows that even though the UAE has a young and dynamic population at the moment, that population is aging, as it is in many other parts of the world, very rapidly. So between 2020 and 2050, which is not that far away, and I fully intend to make it to 2050, I know everyone in this room apart from me will be making it to 2050, there is going to be a six-fold percentage increase in the number of people over 60 in the UAE. Now in the G7, it's going to be even worse, and by 2075, as you may see, more than half of the G7 population will be over 65 years old. At the moment, what happens if you're over 65 and then 70, 75, 80 and so forth, is you tend to live longer than any previous generations, but you end up getting diseases in your later life. And this is called the absence of health span. And what we're trying to do, all of us, M42, Juvenescence, Longevity Forum, is to compress that period of lack of health span in the last years of people's lives. And ultimately, we think we can also extend lifespan, although that's some way down the line. And the reason this is imperative is because otherwise we're going to have a whole load of old people, very few young people, and the old people will be sick. You know, they'll have 1, 2, 3 comorbidities, heart disease, diabetes, you name it. And we've got to do something to address those, otherwise there will be a kind of societal collapse. It's an imperative for our times. It also puts a huge strain on economies. When I was young, I lived in the United States, and about 7% of US GDP was devoted to healthcare expenditures. It's projected by 2040, only 16 years away, that 35% of US GDP will be devoted to healthcare. That's unsustainable No economy can sustain that level of health expenditure. So we've got to do something about it. And what M42 is doing in the way of preventative health is one aspect of that. And what we're doing at the Longevity Forum and scientists everywhere are doing is trying to use biologic intervention to improve outcomes. Because we are very lucky, all of us in this room, to be in the first cohort of people on the planet for whom biological intervention into the mechanisms of aging will be possible. So if I could have the next slide, that would be great. So in the next few days, we're going to have some speakers who've spoken at the Longevity Forum in London and now have come to Abu Dhabi because they've been invited very kindly by M42 to speak here. We have Richard Marshall, who'll be up on quite soon, who's the CEO of Juvenescence, and he can tell you about the technologies that we're excited about in the aging space. We have Henry Dimbleby, who is a friend of mine who is well known around the world really for his work on food. We need to change the food system because too many ultra-processed foods are getting into our system, causing lots of chemical imbalances we're all familiar with, and we need to do something about that. We have Octavius Black, who's going to talk about well-being at work. He's one of the world's great experts on that, and he'll be speaking, I think, later on today. Another slide, please. We have Louise Newsom, who is, I think, the world's greatest expert on hormones and the effect that they have on us as we age, and she'll be talking later on. And as I mentioned, Andrew Scott, who's recently written the book called The Longevity Imperative, reviewed today in the Financial Times, will be speaking tomorrow, and he's my co-founder of the Longevity Forum. And then we have Andrea Meyer, who's a leading gerontologist, who will be speaking also. And all these people have spoken at the original Longevity Forums and are now here in Abu Dhabi to elucidate for all of us. We're super excited to be here. We're really grateful to James in particular for organizing, convening this event, and we hope it becomes an annual one, and we're very grateful to M42. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, that was a wonderful insight. And not only is it such a buzzword, longevity, but to actually pick up it apart and look at the nuanced references when you talk about the demographics across the Middle East and the UAE, the applicability here is just massive. So thank you so much, Jim, and to your team for joining us. That's really exciting. Now, James, a founding member of M42 and a resident of the UAE since when?
2008.
Ah, fantastic. I feel at this point I should just flag up that you are hearing many British voices here on stage at the moment, but our program, we really are celebrating the fantastic Emirati and international talent based here in the country. You mentioned people and talent. They are key to M42. The talent force of M42, our Emirati sisters and brothers, they make it up, don't they?
They do, for sure. We're very, very proud of our Emirati talent, and if I look around in the room, I can probably see 30 to 40% of our people here being UAE nationals. We're incredibly focused on developing our talent pretty much through the clinical pathways at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi in particular. We're driving more work in oncology and more work in research in particular for our UAE national colleagues.
So for me, I think that's really important. When I team up with people across the UAE, it's important to work with the talent that invites the international experts like Jim to be here, but also to celebrate the talent that is actually grown here and developing here. And I think M42 really is a testimony to that. On that note, James, when it comes to M42's plans to provide access to advanced health measures, speaking about longevity, what's been happening here in the region? What's the vision?
Lots is the short answer. It's at the forefront of everything we do. Prevention, detection, and ultimately treatment, if we have to, is where we are heading. You'll probably see at least 3 big splash events from us this year. First and foremost will be how we are attacking diabetes and how we're trying to really turn the ship that is going globally around diabetes and obesity. One of our oldest businesses, Imperial College London Diabetes Centre, is the market leader and regional leader in diabetes care. You will see us taking that business internationally this year. We're truly, truly excited with our partnership with Imperial College London to do more for that global epidemic of obesity. The second core pillar to us is advanced diagnostics and testing. So as I mentioned, prevention and detection are critical. Getting into these chronic and lifestyle diseases early drives, as we know, a much higher long-term survival rates and ultimately more economics back to a country as well. You'll see us launching more work on genomics, and you'll see us partnering with fellow GCC countries to support them with their genome programs as they help to get deeper into their population's genomic profile to help on prevention of chronic disease and illness. And the third, which I won't say too much about, is our life sciences platform. So we are working very closely with global leaders within life sciences, including big pharma, including research organizations, and including leading global experts to do much more in life sciences, and how we use some of our homegrown tools and technology with AI, with one of our partners, Microsoft, to drive our life sciences journey going forward.
Now, one of the key words I picked up on there that you repeated throughout was partnerships. And I think they're really important here within the GCC and also internationally, which brings me back onto Jim. The partnership with the Longevity Forum, it really is very exciting. Now, just a quick takeaway for our audience. What would you recommend people should do when it comes to their personal health? There's going to be lots of sessions when we get a chance to unpack this, but just a quick takeaway, Jim. What might be something that they should bear in mind?
I'm going to put one slide up here, if I may. This is Brian Johnson. Oh, he was Brian Johnson. He'll come back in a second.
Momentarily. There we go.
Some of you may have heard about Brian Johnson. I interviewed him for the Longevity Forum last year. He's the guy who spends $2 million a year of his own money injecting himself with stem cells, eating lots of supplements, not having much fun, and never going out because of the sun damage that he might. And I think it's great because, as I said to him, you're a guinea pig for the rest of us. We can see what works and doesn't work. And so I met his personal doctor last week in London, not because he was recommending for me, because I think it's too late for me, but he said, don't have blood transfusions from younger people. It won't work. But Brian Johnson gets it from his son, and then he in turn gives it to his father. So that doesn't work. I think a lot of stuff doesn't work that you read about on the internet. But a lot of stuff is going to work, partly through the interventions of M42 and organizations like it. And in the next 10 years, my recommendation is to stay alive. Stay alive, but take advantage of what we have now. So yesterday, at James's urging, I became a client of M42. I went and had a full body scan in the M42 beautiful facility in Dubai in an MRI machine, which I didn't like so much. But nonetheless, in 3 days' time, I will be told whether I'll be here next year or not, and hopefully I will be. But it was just fantastic. The experience was phenomenal. The people were wonderful. The facility is absolutely amazing. Go and have that done. Get checked. Get checked as often as possible. There are so many ways of getting checked now, and it's vital that we do so because there are ways in which these common diseases of aging and other diseases can just be detected and also cured or kept in remission until such time as the drugs that we and others are developing will be on the market. It's just a great time to be alive. We just need to hang on in there. And I expect you all to do that because we have a wonderful opportunity, all of us, to live in robust health well past 100 years if we just hang on in there. Amandeep.
Jim, that's such a brilliant takeaway. And I think many of the audience members will be thinking of the Bee Gees when you said, stay alive.
Well, I live in the Isle of Man. It's my home. No one's probably ever heard of the Isle of Man, but it's where the Bee Gees were born.
There you
are.
We may get a rendition over the 3 days that we have on stage. Which brings me nicely back onto you, James. There's an element of excitement when Jim speaks about longevity. We're talking about almost rebranding it. We're talking about dispelling a lot of the myths, things that don't work. What are you most excited about in the region here? What's M42 really excited about now on the horizon?
I think there's two things that really excite me going forward, and at this point, you'd probably expect me to talk about AI and technology and all the topical, buzzwords of yesterday and the last month, the last year around AI and the hype. Don't get me wrong, they're incredibly important, and it's a core focus of everything we do, utilizing AI and technology in M42. But the two things I'm most excited about are availability. So, as Jim mentioned, the whole body MRI. 5 years ago, the cost of that would have been preventative for many of us to go and do that work by ourselves, you know, taking ownership of our own care and looking inside our bodies to help get ahead of all the various diseases. So I think availability to diagnostics, whether it be through MRI or our genomics work or our gut microbiome work and other areas as well. I think the second area is awareness. It really struck home actually this weekend. My 5-year-old son said to me, he said, "Daddy, if I eat vegetables, will I live to 120 so we can still play?" Which for me, for a 5-year-old thinking about nutrition, you know, was incredibly insightful. He also said, "Does it make me strong to beat up bad guys?" Which I thought was quite amusing. But I think that awareness of the new generations coming through, even around nutrition, around sleep, and the stuff that's termed relatively boring, that's really critical to bending this curve of the diseases of aging.
Absolutely. And I think it's wonderful to point out that we can learn from, for example, experts who are very experienced and perhaps a little bit more kind of mature in their age, but also from the younger generation, as you mentioned there, your son. And we've got a very exciting Youth Majlis session on day 3 here, because we're really trying to ensure that we do celebrate the youthful talent here in the region. Now, Jim, final question for you. Please mention any novel ideas that you have or technologies when it comes to exciting you and the longevity space.
Thank you very much for that question. So at the moment, this last week, we dosed our second patient in the United States, a human being, with a new technology that's going to regrow livers in the body using lymph nodes as ectopic bioreactors and hepatic cells injected therein to regrow organs, and starting with the liver, in people with organ failure. There are 7 million people in the world with liver failure, which is a progressively and destructive disease. It costs $800,000 to have a liver transplant if you can get the liver, and there are very few available. And it's a 15-hour operation. You take a lot of immunosuppressive drugs for the rest of your life. This is a $100,000 inpatient procedure with much less immunosuppression. It's in phase 2 with the FDA right now in patients. That's super exciting, because if you can regrow the liver, what about the pancreas? What about the thymus? What about the kidneys? So that's just one thing that's moved out of science fiction into reality. We also know that there are subsections of the population who have genetic characteristics that allow them to live longer than the rest. And we've done a lot of work on the Amish population in the US. You know those religious people who wear funny hats and they go around in horse-driven buggies, never go to the hospital. They live in the 19th century. Well, a portion of them live 10 years longer than the majority of them. We've worked out what that gene is, and we can now express that gene on their behalf. It's called PI1 inhibition. That is either in clinic or about to go in the clinic this month in human beings. So it's not that far away. So we might have drugs on the market in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And in 10 years, there'll be lots of them. So there are a multiplicity of exciting things going on. Just hang on in there as I reiterate yet again.
Fantastic. That is super exciting. And on that note, we're going to end this session. You have some exciting giveaways. Dr. Fatima Reddin, our wonderful brains behind the program. Please give her a big round of applause and the whole team, the brilliant program that they've organized for us. We've got some books to give away. James and Jim, you've literally got a minute on the clock. How would you like to give away the books? And let's initiate that right now.
Well, I imagine most of you have got children or grandchildren. If you have, this is a children's book, which I wrote for all my books. All the money goes to charity. This is for animal charities, and it's about one of our dogs that we own. We own 8 dogs. So if you'd like to have one of those, and if there aren't enough to go around, my sister Trish is with me, and she'll take your name and address and send them to you.
Okay, so let's just take the initiative. We've got 4 books. Quickly, let's ask 4 questions and give them away right now. This is how we act at M42. There's no dithering. Come on.
No, I always give them to the top dog, because that way,
Who's the top?
about the questions.
Oh.
About Earth.
Your
Good for you.
Excellency. Thank you
Okay.
so much. 2 more books?
James, I think you should...
I think certainly 1 book should go to a female member of our audience, and we should make sure maybe one of our wonderful Emirati sisters here could be.
I think... Or Safia here, who leads a lot of our
Absolutely.
new projects in Dubai.
Please
She's doing
come.
fantastic work.
Fantastic. And a very final note goes to James. Who should we just at least ensure, because this is a 3-day full-on action, that we just name check right from the beginning? I'm going to go with M42, MD and Group CEO of M42 and Chairman of Cleveland Clinic, Hassan Jassim El Nawais. A big round of applause for his leadership for our team. And James, who else should we flag up behind this? Cecilia, of course, I can
Good
see
question.
Cecilia being very shy.
Cecilia's the obvious one. She's obviously legitimately the brains and was here till 2:45 this morning, pulling out all the stops to get it done. So Cecilia, huge effort. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. I see Ashish is there in the wings for us. He's going to be gracing our stage very soon. We mentioned Dr. Fatima, all the wonderful team. We're just super excited to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, do come back. In 2 minutes' time, we have our very first panel discussion on genomics frontiers. I'm going to say a big thank you to Jim and James, and we're going to be back in 2 minutes. Thank you.